welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. In today's Mediterranean diet recipe video, I'm showcasing 3 delicious seasonal fruit. One of the most important factors of the Mediterranean diet is eating seasonally, so I try to highlight as much seasonal produce in every single recipe video that I can. In today's recipe video, I'm showcasing lots of seasonal fruit in some delicious baked goods that are perfect for breakfast or a snack, or you can even level them up a little bit and make them a fun dessert. A lovely gingerbread galette with pears, spice things up, literally with a gingerbread flavoring in the crust. It's super flaky and buttery, and to top it all off, there is a drizzle of apple cider glaze. For recipe number 2, I'm highlighting carrots, which is technically a vegetable, as well as lots of orange and cranberries. I leave all my recipes in the description below, and when you go to my website to find the recipes, I try to share as many different types of variations as possible, whether you're gluten-free, dairy-free, if you want to kind of change up the recipe to suit your flavors, your taste buds, your dietary preferences. I try my best to always include all of that. So this beautiful loaf is packed with so many carrots. You have the nice, tart, delicious, fresh cranberries that kind of burst all throughout, and the beautiful aromatic of orange. So it is absolutely delicious. And the third recipe is an updated version of a classic on my website, my Greek yogurt cheesecake bars. And every season, I like to swirl something different into the cheesecake bars. I swirled some delicious homemade apple butter. It's really easy to make your own apple butter. It makes your kitchen smell delicious, and you can just flavor it how you would like to flavor it. So those are the 3 delicious seasonal fruit recipes. So let's go ahead and hop into recipe number 1. So recipe number 1, we are doing the pear gingerbread galette with a apple cider glaze on top. I have the gingerbread crust here. I've taken it out of the fridge for about 30 minutes. It's definitely ready to be rolled out. So I'm just gonna flour my surface really well, because we do not want any sticking. The gingerbread dough was so incredibly easy to make because it's just my classic pastry crust recipe that I love, and then I spiced it up with some brown sugar, some molasses, and loads of spices to give it that gingerbread feel. You could do this with all kinds of other stuff, whether you wanted to stud it with some like rosemary. You could add whatever spices you want, whatever flavors you want. It's just a really fun way to make a more interesting kind of pastry crust. So I have the whole entire crust really well floured. So it's really hard in the beginning, and then it gets really easy to work with. So just be super patient. I like to do about 4 or 5 rolls back and forth, and then turn it a, what is that, 45-degree angle. And we're going for about 1/4 of an inch thick. And so if you're saying, Caroline, this is a little bit time consuming, you promised super quick and easy recipes, pastry crust is actually a wonderful thing to prep, and you can keep like 2 or 3 batches of pastry crust in the freezer for like 2 or 3 months. And that way, when you're craving galette or pie or some kind of recipe with a pastry crust, you already have it on hand, and that cuts out a lot of work. The ingredients are so minimal, and they're steps anybody could do, so that's why I like to say it's quick and easy, because at its core, Mediterranean cooking is really quite simple. It uses such simple ingredients and simple methods. That doesn't mean you get out of actually having to do the making of it. It's super important to like get into your kitchen and make some food. I know it's not feasible every single day, but the more you can be in your kitchen and make homemade food, the better it is. That is an authentic modern Mediterranean diet and lifestyle, is to try to make as much as the food as you can yourself. It's not turning into a perfect circle. It is supposed to be rustic, which is perfect because I'm not a perfectionist. And there will be some cracking, and you just don't worry about that. You kind of just pinch it together, and we're gonna actually pop this back in the fridge while we make the fruit filling, so the cracking is no big deal. So I have the crust all rolled out. I'm gonna transfer it to a baking sheet with parchment. I'll dust off a lot of the flour that you see on the top after it's chilled, because it's kind of easier to dust off a lot of that flour. So into the fridge it goes. The pear filling for this gingerbread galette could not be easier to make. I have some 1 or 2 days away from being perfectly ripe pears. These are Bosc pears. You could also use Barlett pears. And definitely don't want them like so underripe that they're crisp as an apple, but no mushiness is ideal. I'm just going to thinly slice the pears. I'm leaving the skins on. Anything with the skin has way more nutrition, and it just also adds a little bit more color. So the way that I cut a pear is similar to an apple. You just go down all 4 sides, and then if you want to snack on the center here, you can just kind of eat the center like an apple. Also, pears are such a fragile fruit that if you see any like divots, dark spots, blemishes, you just take your knife and kind of get out any of the blemishes. I have all of the pears thinly sliced in the bowl, and to this I'm gonna keep it so simple because I really want the pastry crust to shine with all of its flavor. 2 tablespoons of flour, and what flour does is it absorbs so much of the juices that will be let off once the pears are cooking so that you don't get a soggy crust. And then you can do how much sugar you want. I'm just gonna do probably like a good sprinkling. It doesn't need to be too sweet. And then lastly, I'm just gonna cut a side of a watermelon, similar to how we cut, did I just say watermelon? I am losing my brain cells today. I'm going to cut the side of a lemon, similar to how you cut like the apple or how we cut a pear, because that way it's so easily to see if any seeds are involved and you can just pick them out. Ooh, it smells so lemony. Just about a tablespoon of lemon juice. Just to bring out all the flavors, we also need a nice pinch of salt. I'm gonna go ahead and toss it all up so the pears are fully coated. You want to be super duper gentle and not break the pears, so you just want to give it a light toss. You scoop from underneath and kind of do a folding method, so that way you break as minimal pears as possible. Now that we have the pears so well nicely tossed, I'm gonna grab the pastry crust out of the fridge. It smells so good. And now we're just gonna have a lot of fun and kind of start in the center, and I like to do like a pinwheel or kind of like circular with the pears. I would say about an inch border I left all around, a rough inch. I'm gonna take 1 egg, splash of water, just to make it a little bit more thin. Beat this up. This is gonna be our egg wash. I have some raw cane sugar here, and I'm gonna sprinkle that on the edge of the crust for presentation and just to give it a little bit more exterior crusty texture. All you have to do is just pull up the crust and bring it on over, and then if anything cracks, it's no big deal, just start pinching. And if you notice any extra flour from the bottom, just go ahead and brush that off. So the faster you move and the less you touch it is better, because we're working with a lot of butter in this dough. And the other reason why I really love this egg wash and sugar trick on the outside of the crust is because, like I said, I'm not a perfectionist at this. I'm not a professional baker. I love to do this kind of stuff, but I'm just not incredible at it. So to cover up so many blemishes that I have with this crust going on here, I cover that up with that sugar, and just it adds a little shine, a little texture, a little fun. This is a stunning breakfast. It's great for brunch. It's a great snack with some tea or coffee on a cold winter afternoon. Or if you want to dollop it with ice cream, you got a dessert. The galette is ready to go, and I'm gonna pop it in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect. I mean, I'm actually gonna like pat myself on the back for this one. Beautiful. The pear galette is out of the oven. I've let it cool for about 5 minutes, just so it's a little bit easier to handle, but I still want it warm when I do the final touch. So this is a really fun hack. I went to a local orchard here in my hometown, and I picked up a lot of apple cider, and then I had no idea what to do with it. Oh my God, it smells so good. For the cider syrup, I added 4 cups of apple cider to a saucepan without a lid on it, so you can get that evaporation going, but it reduces down to a ½ cup, and I probably reduced it too much. Literally thicker than honey. It's like a corn syrup thickness. I'll go ahead and do a little, like, it is caramel, basically. And I'm gonna go ahead and add it to another jar so I can heat it up, about a tablespoon of it. So into the microwave it goes. Maybe about 20 seconds. So to give the pears a beautiful shine, a little bit more depth of flavor, and even sweetness, I'm going to drizzle this apple cider syrup on top. It's time to taste test this incredible gingerbread pear galette with an apple cider syrup. I'm so excited. The pears are soft, yet still have a bite to them. That syrup from the apple cider, it just adds that apple cider flavor, and it adds something extra special to this incredible, incredible galette. You're definitely gonna wanna try this. Flavors are absolutely incredible, and the crust is really not so sweet. The gingerbread complements the pears so well. I can't stop eating this. Absolutely amazing. I'm gonna take one more bite, and we're gonna move on to recipe number 2. So good. For recipe number 2, I have a carrot cake loaf. It has bursting fresh cranberries throughout, so it adds a little bit of tartness, and it's not overly sweet, so it is a perfect breakfast food just as is. I'm gonna give it a little sparkle today with a little bit of a glaze. That's completely and utterly optional, and I'm just gonna lift it out of the loaf pan. So I'm gonna just use the other half of the orange with some powdered sugar here and make a orange glaze. But before we even get onto that, let me talk about what is in this incredible carrot cake bread. And I don't think I mentioned this, but it is a dairy-free recipe. It's naturally dairy-free. It does have eggs, but no dairy in it. I chose avocado oil. You could use olive oil, but I didn't really want to like have too much, which is rare. I can't believe I'm saying this. I just didn't want too much flavors going on. So I kind of used a neutral tasting oil. Avocado oil is my favorite for high heat and neutral tasting oil. And then I use olive oil for absolutely everything else. So avocado oil, eggs, sugar, flour, and then of course, loads of carrots. I use 2 cups of carrots. So this thing is packed with carrots, orange zest, orange juice, fresh cranberries. You can use dried cranberries, but I don't like that they add sugar to cranberries. I'm gonna go ahead and squeeze in the orange, like 2 teaspoons at a time, to about probably 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. I didn't bring any more powdered sugar with me, so I can always add more liquid, but I can't take it away. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a nice glaze. Oh yeah. So beautiful. So let's talk sugared cranberries. I bought a bag of cranberries to chop, about half of them, and put them into the loaf themselves. And you guys know me, I'm the queen of absolutely no waste. If I tell you to buy something, I try really hard to make sure I show you how to use it all up. And this is such a fun concept for festive holiday time, in my opinion, but just in winter in general. So I know what you're gonna say, Caroline, there's so much sugar going on. Sugar is not really supposed to be part of the Mediterranean diet. And to that I say, that's not true. There is sugar on the Mediterranean diet. I talk about this a lot in something that is coming out January 1st. So if you haven't already, please, please, please subscribe to my newsletter below. And I have something dropping January 1st that I hope will be so incredibly helpful for you on your journey in the modern Mediterranean lifestyle, specifically focusing on the diet. Everything is okay in moderation. And so you'll find that things are just in general less sweet in the Mediterranean, but they definitely do eat sweet things. It's just not so stick to your teeth, makes you so thirsty after you eat it kind of sugar. Because life is supposed to be enjoyable. I mean, if you're not enjoying life, that's very, very unhealthy. So enjoy a little bit of sugar. So anyways, back to the sugared cranberries. I have some regular white sugar here. I always recommend pure cane sugar. I'm gonna go in with 1/4 cup into a saucepan, and then equal parts sugar is water. I'm making such a tiny amount of what this is considered, which is simple syrup, because I only have like, I would say maybe 1/2 cup of cranberries left. I'm gonna heat it over medium heat. So I'm gonna let this slowly dissolve on the stovetop. I'm gonna be stirring it pretty constantly because you don't want that sugar to burn and you want it to be well mixed with that water. And then once you see all the sugars dissolved, you're gonna wanna cut the heat and pull the saucepan off of the heat and let the simple syrup cool for about 15 minutes. You don't want it piping hot when you drop in the cranberries. And then you just wanna give the cranberries a quick little toss in the simple syrup. I'm gonna lay them out on parchment paper because they're gonna be super sticky, and that's just gonna save me a lot of cleanup. So I have the glazed cranberries in the simple syrup, and I'm just gonna put them off to the side for about 30 or 40 minutes. So the cranberries have cooled completely with the simple syrup glaze all on top. Beautiful, beautiful. You just add the sugar. They're super sticky, like they stick completely to the spoon. Drop them in the sugar. Let's see if this works. I've never actually made these before. Oh, they're so beautiful. Wow, they're so exactly like I imagined. Oh my God, they're so cute. Pop them onto the clean parchment paper tray. I adorned the carrot cake with a bunch of the frosted cranberries, and I'm super curious to find out if these even taste good. So here we go. Yeah, if you like sour candy, these are actually quite delicious. Oh yeah, super dense, super moist. Perfect amount of orange. This is sensational. I think orange and cranberry go so well together. The flavors are absolutely amazing. You have to try this carrot cake. You could add walnuts, pecans, so many different types of nuts you could add into this, even like coconut flakes for a little bit of crunch. But honestly, this is perfection as is. I cannot wait to savor this all week long with my coffee and tea. This is one of my favorite recipes I think I've ever made. It's so well balanced. It's not too orange. It just gives it the nice zest, bright goodness, which I feel like we're kind of searching for. In the winter, you want something nice and light and refreshing. This is absolutely delicious. So let's move on to the third and final recipe. The third and final recipe is going to be my updated Greek yogurt cheesecake bars, with the star of the show being apple butter. Apple butter is a true love of mine. I feel like it is a great staple to have on hand all fall and winter long. It lends itself to so many things. Just basically however you'd use jam, you'd use apple butter. So whether you want to spread it on any toast or just any bread in general, you can use it to flavor things like your overnight oats or like your oatmeal. You just put a big spoonful in your oatmeal. You can do so many things with apple butter. It is so easy to make. You just put everything in a pot, let it simmer for a couple hours until the apples are just absolutely falling apart and super duper soft, and then you blend it for a couple minutes until almost no chunks remain, and you have apple butter. You could keep it in the freezer, you could gift it. If you want to bring like a hostess gift, you want to put a pretty like bow on it, apple butter is thebomb.com. So I wanted to update my cheesecake bars because the truth is they are such a popular recipe, but unfortunately I noticed every time I ate them that one, the crust, it always fell apart too much, and two, I noticed that there was this kind of extreme tang, like different than like a cream cheese tang that you'd get because it was just Greek yogurt. So I actually blended it with some mascarpone, so it was equal parts mascarpone and Greek yogurt, and that way there's no cracking. There's a little bit more fat in this recipe, which fat is okay, fat is good for us. They're a little bit more decadent and satisfying. Still very high in protein thanks to the Greek yogurt, and the crust is completely gluten-free. It is just oat flour with butter and lots of pecans, because you guys know I love texture. So I baked these yesterday. They took about 40 minutes to bake, and they had the slightest little jiggle in the middle. That's super important, especially when you're baking like cheesecake. You don't want to over bake it because then you'll get it curdled and kind of like an egg consistency, like scrambled egg consistency. When you like move the pan back and forth in the oven, it was completely set, but there was still some wiggling to it, mostly in the center, which is exactly what I was looking for. So you definitely want to refrigerate them for at least 3 hours. I refrigerated them overnight, so they are nice and cold and really easy to cut. So I'm just gonna loosen up the edges to make sure that they come out super duper easily. Woo, perfect. Oh yeah, and the crust is perfectly baked. Oh yeah. And then you wanna make sure to always clean in between each cut, because you don't want anything on your knife every time you go in to cut. I am determined to cut these evenly. So sad cutting into these beautifully swirled bars. Because it's a shortbread crust, as you cut into it, there will be a few crumbs. These couldn't have turned out any better. The top is so creamy and luxurious. You totally get the cheesecake vibes, but it's definitely not nearly as sweet. And it has all that protein from the Greek yogurt, and then that gluten-free oatmeal crust is perfection as well. And it just adds a beautiful oatmeal pecan base. Absolute heaven. The crust is so delicious. And then you get almost like a tiramisu feeling because of that mascarpone. Perfect amount of tang, perfect amount of sweetness, and then I get a perfect dollop of all the spices, all the apple. Honestly, I'm gonna go ahead and just dollop more apple butter on each of these when I go to eat them, because the apple butter is so delicious and flavorful. I'm gonna put my fork down and say thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it, whether it's one of the recipes or a baking method or a cooking method or some fact about the Mediterranean diet. And like I said, I have something so incredibly exciting dropping January 1st. So if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, please do that in the description so you can be one of the first ones to know when it drops, what it is. I'm going to be hinting towards it all through December, and I think it'll help you guys on your modern Mediterranean diet journey so much. Please go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter, as well as subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. And once again, just thank you so much for your support. It means the absolute world to me. And until next time, I hope you create a very zestful day. Ciao.